Good afternoon. Very special Chabura, going through Kol HaTorah Kula as we are being led by the Rambam himself, and we are in Kochavin and Chukas HaGoyim, the practices and rituals the Goyim used to do. And today's a very interesting set of halachas. We are going to examine and explore various weird practices that Goyim had. They believed whatever they believed, and it found its way into Torah because when learning how they serve these avodas, and it's in the context of knowing what the halacha is, you are learning Torah. You have to make Perek Torah. And therefore, Chassidus discusses at length how Limud Torah has the koyach to permeate this world in the lowest places. The Torah is now coming to Paskan halacha in these areas, and when we learn it, regardless if we'll ever see a oiver or yidaini, that's still going to be the din, and we make Perek Torah. So please follow along inside. And I want again, before we jump inside, thank again our very dear Kita Hey that are here hosting the Chabura today. In the lack of a teacher, this is a very special way to sub the class. Please, Rabbi Nemirovsky, everyone together when the camera comes to you, say Kol HaTorah Kula. Yeah, Rabbi, let's give them a key into what's going on. 1, 2, 3, and beautiful. These are the boys, I want to say, that actually are also going through Kol HaTorah Kula. However, many of them are going through only in Sefer HaMitzvahs, which is the cycle, the quick cycle. The Rambam has every day the mitzvah connected to what everyone else is learning. Many are learning with us Perek Echad L'Yom. And Kinlach Perek Vav. Okay, so the Rambam is going to begin with two very interesting, or actually we would call them wicked people, the Oiv and the Yidaini. These two types of ways of telling the future or connecting with other klippus and realities beyond the nature of this world are asur min haTorah, and it's not only asur to do it, it's also asur to ask their counsel and for help and to understand it. So let's see it inside. Halacha Aleph. Ha'oisa oiv or yidaini. If someone does the act of oiv or yidaini, which the Rambam is going to specify soon, and he does it with his own consent, from his own free will, bizadoin, and he does it with intentionally, which means he knows that this is asur. Chayiv kares, he is chayiv kares. What does that mean? There are deis, whether sai means he's going to get cut off, that means he's going to die young, and his neshama gets cut off from Olam Haba. We discussed in a previous year different opinions in the Rishonim, whether it's one or the other or both. Now, Zok the Rambam, that if he did it intentionally, is chayiv kares. He's not put to death. He's not put to death without Eidim Basra. There were no two Eidim, and he wasn't warned. However, if two people testified and they warned him, Niskal, he gets stoned. And if it was a mistake, he didn't know it's asur, or he didn't know that this is the malacha, etc. In this case, maybe chatas kvo, he has the carbon chatas. Dr. Rambam, what are these practices, these rituals? Dr. Rambam, Ketzad Maisa Oiv, what would they do? Listen, fascinating. Vikru Meken Zayin. Zehu Sha'oimid Umaktir K'toirus Yedua. They would take specific incense, specific types of spices and incense, and have it go up in smoke. He would hold a twig of a myrtle, of a hadas, and wave it. He would hold it in his hand, a manifa, and wave it. And then they would start whispering. Bidvarim Yedum, at some they would say, Kolmene abracadabra, right? Ad sheyishma shoyel ki'ilu echad medaber imoy. He would start hearing like a ventriloquist. You know, you ever buy a chalamayid ventriloquist? The person holds a kachka, a menshi, a little thing, and he talks to you, or he talks to it, and it looks as if this is talking back. They would have the person feeling as if he's hearing voices. He hears somebody talking to him, and the person is responding to the questions he has in his head or that he asked. It was with a whisper from under the ground. It sounded like it's very noticeable that the Rambam does not believe that there are any real powers of Avodah Zarah. It means the Rambam personally does not believe that there are episkoilos and there's a different world that they're interacting with. It's all chizas einayim. This is all magic tricks and the ventriloquist shtick. And because Goyim believed in it, that's what Torah asked it. This is the opinion of the Rambam Yedua. So the Rambam says, and it's so whispering and it's such a slight tone that it doesn't seem like someone's actually talking. This person thinks like he's hearing it in his mind, and it's like a whole spiritual experience. Another example of oiv where you hear someone talking to him, they would do it without a hadas, rather with a gulgoylas hames. They would take the skull, the head of a person that died, umaktila. He would take, put incense in front of him, nacheshba, and through it he would do certain black magic, as we'll see. And then all of a sudden, it sounds like from his armpit a sound is coming out. And shuffle ad ma'oid, very low, and the Rambam is describing it in very vivid terms. You could see that the Rambam, as a member that would have been in the Sanhedrin, the Rambam was choike ad time. He went to verify these details evidently. Very low, umeshiva, in response, kol elu ma'aseh oivim. These are all under the title of oiv, which is, as we said, asa to do and asa to take counsel from. Zakter. Oops, sorry. Zakter Rambam. Kol elu ma'aseh va'oisem, whether you do the one with the myrtle, whether you do the one with the skull. He's chayiv skila. Zakter Rambam. Halacha beis. Now we're moving on to the Yid'oini. Zakter Rambam. Ketzad ma'aseh Yid'oini. What does the Yid'oini do? Manech etzem oif sheshmo yadua. There was a specific type of bird that the name of the bird is Yadua, and they would take the bone of that bird and put it in his mouth. While he has it in his mouth, he would put ktoiras, burn incense, and do different various actions until atshiyipol kenichbel, like he's having a seizure, okay, an epileptic seizure. You know what epilepsy is? Starts all of a sudden, he has a seizure, starts trembling and falls on the ground, and then all of a sudden, out of his mouth, he starts saying things that will be in the future. And they are various types of idol worship. They're all under the warning Torah prohibited. Do not turn to the Ovid Yidoni. Halacha Gimel. And the third type of weird practice, and this, Rabbi Nemrovsky put a fascinating picture. Are you allowed to send your son to take a walk through the fire? And remember, sending your sons with a priest to go through the fire, you have to do it exactly the way they do it. If you do it a little different, he's not going to be chayiv skila. It's obviously usher. He's being poineh. He's believing it. There's lavim involved. And this we're going to see the details of exactly how it's done. If he gives one of his children la moilach to the deity called moilach, and as we'll see, the way they served it, if he did it with his free will, and it was intentional, he knew this is aser chayiv kares, is chayiv kares, if there were no edim, and if it was unintentional, he didn't know this is aser, he didn't know this is avodah zarah, maybe chatos k'vua, he brings a carbon chatos. If he did it after he was being warned by edim. He was warned, and with Edim Niskal he gets on Shenem Asher Yitem Izar La Malach Mois Yumas. Am Haaretz Yigimu Ba'aben, the men, the nation of the land will stone him with peltum with stones. Now, as Harash Leminayin, where do you find a warning? Talmud Loimer, the pasuk says, Mizaracha loititin lahaver la moilach. Do not give from your sons to pass through this moilach act. There should not be between you one that has his son or daughter pass through by fire. Now, Keitzad Oisin. Okay, I should just say it was in honor of an Amoin deity, this Moilach, and they believe that this, so to speak, it saves the child, will give him the immunity from being killed. This is all Chalaim Meshavya Daberu. Ram describes this in Ma'or Nevuchim. Anyways, but Dr. Rambam, what was their ritual? Madlik Eish Gdoilo, they lit a big fire. Some of his children, he doesn't walk him through. He gives him over to one of the priests, those that serve the flames. Those priests, they give him back to the father. Sorry, they don't take him through. They take him and then they give him back to the father to move him through the fire. So the father's going to walk him through with their consent and with their permission. And Ba'avia Ben, the father of this child, he passes them through with their permission. He takes them through on foot from one side to the other side, through the flame. No, he doesn't burn him. This is unlike the Rambam makes a distinction. This is not like different Avodas Kochavin that in those days they had human sacrifice. Terrible. They would sacrifice their children. Moilech was Ma'avir. He would take him through the flame and El Ba'avara Bilbad Hoisa Avodas Ze Shmoy Moilech. Therefore, if you do this specific act to any other Avodah Zarah, which is not Moilech, you're not Chayiv Misa. Beskila, unless it was Mechabek Menashek to that Avodah Zarah, which I think in this case, being that it was, I think it was a specific getchka. This was a ritual to respect that getchka. So if you hug the getchka, you burn it. Zok Rambam Halacha Dalet, and now the Rambam is going to put the caveat, the limitations of only in which case is it going to be chayiv. Ein chayiv kares oiskila, depending on if he had Edim Asra. First of all, he gives him over to the priest. And then afterwards, he takes him on foot through the fire, in a way of passing him through. But the child would walk on foot through the fire. Mosar v'loy hevir, for example, if there's a detail lacking, he gave him over to the priest, but the father didn't take him back and do it. Rather, the priest did it. Hevir v'loy mosar, or the other way around. The father did take him through honoring this deity, v'loy mosar, he didn't give him first to the priest. Aisha mosar v'hevir, he did give him to the priest and did take him back and is passing him through. But shaloi derech ha'avara, it wasn't that he was walking through. Rather, he prompted him and picked him up and dropped him, or had him jump through. These are all not derech the derech ha'avara or derech ha'avoda and potter. Another detail: it has to be some of his children, and some are left over. How could that be? How can that be? If he only has one son, right? So that's an example. So here you have, because otherwise he would be chayiv misa already. How could he have miktsas? So for example, if he had, if he wasn't neither yet. Now, echad zera kosher, echad zera pasul, regardless of how legit this child is. Okay, let's say he's a mamzer, he's still going to be chayiv misa for that. Echad banav uvnoisav, echad bneim uvnei bneim, whether it's his sons, daughters, whether in plural, whether it's their children, that means his grandchildren, or whether boys or girls. Al kol yetze any one of his descendants who chayiv. Why? Zari, there's children. The pasuk says Zari l'melech aval im hever echav. Oyach Yosef, it was one of his siblings, his brothers or sisters. Oyach Voisav, or his parents. Oy shehever atzma, he himself walked himself through, gave himself to the priest and the like. Hever echad his potter. Hever echad mizarevu yashin oisha yasuma. If the child was blind or the child was sleeping, potter, he is potter. And now we finally potter Gevaran from Moilech, and we're about to move on to the next form of Avodah Zarah called Matseva. And we'll stop for a second. Yeah, Moshe. That's a great question. If it's your son and he's over bar mitzvah, l'cha'ura, he still will be chayiv, as long as it's his son. Yeah. That means the child wasn't over ma'avir l'moilach. It's the issur is to give him to the priest and then to have him walk through. So obviously there's lavim involved for the child, but I don't think he's put to death. Yeah, Levi. So in that case, he probably won't even be over a lav if the son never consented. Menachem? He doesn't get mal because the father is the one that did serve that by the zara. Yeah. Levi? So I said, so there are, by Shalom Melech, it's Yidua the shit of the Rambam that he doesn't attribute any real power to Avodah Zarah. Yidua Shitase, but it's true. From the Pashta story by the lady that brought back Shalom Melech, for Shalom Melech, she brought back Shmuel Navi. It sounds like there's something true to it. Okay. Now we're moving on to Matzeva. Before we move on to Matzeva, I want to go back to yesterday's Rambam for a moment and tell you halacha l'mais. Remember, we said that one is not allowed to cause a goy to mention or to swear in the name of Avodah Zarah. And I said you could take a goy to court, even though at some point in today's day and age, they're going to have him say certain things under oath. Under oath means he's going to put his hand on a Bible. And the Rambam holds, you should know, that there's no such a thing shituf. Also, Christianity is straight up Avodah Zarah, if I remember correctly. The Ramah, as we'll see in the halach that I'm about to quote in Sim Kuf Nun Vav, holds that shituf is okay. That means if he believes he's the one Eibishter, and these have certain powers, it's not okay for a yid to believe, but for a guy it's okay. And in that case, you're also allowed to take him to court, even if they make him swear, because he's not swearing straight up to Avodah Zarah. He's also swearing in the name of the Eibishter b'shituf. So I want to read it inside this halacha l'maisa. But we said in halacha yud of Perek, hey, that also lashbi a goy b'yira. So you're not allowed to make a goy swear even in what he believes. So the Shulchan Aruch Paschals like the Rambam says sheyesh lizor not to make a shultus with a goy. In which case, Shema Yischayev lo'yishua v'yishava b'shem Avodah Zarah. He's going to have to. He may have to swear to you that he split everything properly and he was dealing honestly. And the Mechaber writes also in Choshen Mishpat Kochavin Vav that if he already did it in his Chai Shua, you're allowed to be Mekabel the Shua, as the Sma writes over there, so Katan Tzadik Beis, that Mitzad Hefsed Mamoinoi they were Mekel. However, the Ramah writes in Sim Kuf Nun Vav and Archaim Sif Aleph that Yesh Mekilim making. They're makel to make a shuttus with a goy in today's day. Why? Because they're not swearing in the name of Avodah Zarah. They're really swearing in. It's called. They mention Shem Avodah Zarah b'Shuvasam. Even if they do, their kavanah is not Avodah Zarah alone. It's also the name of Shem Shemayim, because Christianity, that's their way of going about things. Now we're going to move on to Matzeva, and what a Matzeva is a big stone that they would make it to honor the Avodah Zarah with a specific time that people would gather around it. And this aroused a controversy in regards to all these memorial andartot. What are they called? These big not statues, for remembrance. And we'll see there's our poskim that hold that it's only mutter if there's no specific day that they gather around it, around the sculpture, and mention it l'chavod, because it's not necessarily even Avodah Zarah itself. It's just for kavod, and it's taken away from kavod of the Eibishter, according to certain poskim. Okay, we'll discuss it inside. Let's see first halacha vav. Matzeva shaso Torah. What is the matzeva that the Torah prohibited? He binyan. It's a building. Shiyu akom miskaptzim etzla. Everyone would gather around it. Even to serve the Eibishter. Being that that's what they did for Avodah Zarah, they would gather around this big stone. The Eibishter despises it. Make him matzeva, loike, you get lashes, even if it was for the Eibishter. Now, and that this brings us to the Holocaust memorials that have these sculptures of different things, and people gather around on a specific day. So it's nishtazay pashat. simpler if there's no specific day that they would gather around, because that was the derech. They would gather around. Now, Zakt Rambam Vaitim, Chen Even Maskis. This is another form of a stone, but this was a laying stone that they would bow on this stone. And because this, we'll see, one is not allowed to bow when the floor is made out of stone. Zakt Rambam. Even if he's bowing on this stone, for the sake of the Eibishter, that's what his mind is on. Loiki gets malchus. Shenemar bevan maskas loisitnu ba'artzchem, do not have in your land. Leishtach was allowed to bow on it. Impnei shekein hoya derech avodah zara. This was the way that avodah zara would be served. Laniach evan lefaneha. They would place a stone before it. Leishtach was allowed in front of the avodah zara. Lefichach ein oisim kein lashem. You can't even do that for the Eibishter. Beiner loike, however, he's only loike. You only get malchus by pishud yadayim raglayim. There's koyrim mishtachvim. When we describe how the koyanim, so koyanim is al berech, and mishtachvim is they're completely bowed, and then neiflim al pleim is pishut yodayim raglayim, spread out completely. So that's when you become chayim. And his whole existence is all flat on that surface. This is the term Torah is referring to when it says shtachava. Now, in which case, this is only everywhere else, excluding the Beis Hamikdash. On this, you're allowed to bow. In your land. So Beis Hamikdash, those stones that were carved in the Beis Hamikdash, and they're carved not like a natural stone, rather like our balato, that is mutar mipnei zeh. Because of this prohibition, Nagu Kol Yisrael Latzia. They would place mats and carpets in shuls that had stone floors, or straw, to at least separate between their face when they're doing Pishut Yadayim Raglayim and the stones. If he has nothing to separate between them, he should bow elsewhere. If I remember correctly, the Raiva disagrees. He says the problem is beyond stones also. Or he leans on his side in a way that his face does not press the stones. The Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch, Simkuf Lamadal, the Alter Rebbe holds that without Pishut Yadayim Raglayim, you're allowed to be Mata Al Tzidai. The Mata Ephraim, you should know, Paskins, Mata Ephraim is in the back of the, we have on Shchita, the Mata Ephraim is on all dinim of Yom Noraim. We have it in the Machzorim. And he said our Chumrah is not only by stones, there should be a separation regardless of what you're bowing down on, even if it's wood. And we said that if you don't have anywhere else, if you can't separate between you and the stones, you should go to a different place. The Ramah says that even if there's no Evan Maskis, one should still not bow down. That means even though the whole concept doesn't exist anymore, people are not bowing to idols. And the reason is, the Taz says, because Chacham were goyzer, not to be, even wherever it is, mipnei Evan Maskis. So wherever you are, even if there's no Evan Maskis, what the Ramah means, even if there's no Evan Maskis currently in this shul, so you think, okay, so I don't need to go to somewhere else. No, even if it's not in this shul, the Taz says it's at other place. The Alter Rebbe holds that below Pishut Yadayim Raglayim are allowed to lean on your side. Now, if a person bows to the Eibishter on stones without Pishut Yadayim Raglayim, ain't a loike. He doesn't get malchus because again, min haTorah you only chayiv when completely flat, right? Pishut Yadayim Raglayim. Aval makin makas mardos, he does get rabbinic lashes. Mardos is rebelling. He rebels against Divrei Chachamim. It's a different type of whip. Avol Avodah Zara, if he's bowing not to the Eibishter Avodah Zara, achaz ishtachava Pishut Yadayim Raglayim, whether it's completely flat or even ishtachava below Pishut Yadayim Raglayim, mishal sheyich v'shpanav b'karka, as soon as his head touches the floor, niskal. If this intended for the Avodah Zara, he gets stoned. Halacha test. Final two halachas for today. Someone plants a tree by the Mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash, Bein Ilon Srak, whether it's a tree that is barren and won't give fruits. Bein ilan Michael, or even a fruit tree. Aval Pisha also is Migdash. He had wonderful intentions. He wanted to beautify the base of Migdash. The Yoifilo and it's taka beautiful. Harez the Liki gets Malka. Shanamalo Sital Shera. Kol 8 Etzom Zbachasham Lakachashanot Ashatas Allah. Do not plant an Asherah tree. Now, note an Asherah tree, there's two forms. We spoke about it. An Asherah tree is sometimes the tree they would serve themselves. That's one type of Asherah. Here he's talking about an Asherah tree. They planted a tree to notify people where the Avodah is. They would gather around that tree. So it's similar a little bit to a Matzeva. And you're not allowed to do this by the Eibishter, even if you're doing it L'noim. Before near its altar. And the final halacha for today, Talmidim and Kitei, thank you so very much for hosting the Kol HaTorah Kula Chabura, where we cruise through the entire Torah through the lens of the Rambam. Zok the Rambam, also last Sadroi Shalit. One is not allowed to make nice courtyards. And Sadra is usually taken as a corridor made out of wood, like the Kardo in Eretz Yisrael. Keder Shoisim b'chatzeis, like we do in our courtyards. Afal b'shu b'binyan ve'ene eitz natua. This is, again, you're not allowed to make this out of wood if it's in the base of Migdash and it's connected to the ground, like they do. Afal b'shu b'binyan ve'ene eitz natua. Even if you didn't plant the tree, it's not like a sheira. Still, you're not allowed to. Harchaka yisera. This is an extra, an additional Isra prohibition that they did in order to keep us far away. Shneimar kol eitz. Any wood, even if it's not planted. All those that had wood in the base of Migdash were at a stone. There was no wood be'etzem. Loy shel eitz. Many Mefarshim ask on the Rambam. L'chur there was lishkas ha'eitz where the Kohen Gadol was. What's more relevant to us is, let me ask you, we don't have Hakel. In Hakel they built a bima shel eitz. So what's interesting is the Rambam describes Hakel, that it was built outside of the Azara and brought in. And the reason is, some Mefarshim say, some Rishonim say, that this is an order that it shouldn't be there for 2 days, because then it would look like kavua. The issue is to place it in a way that's kavua. You're allowed to also have wood in the walls of the Beis HaMikdash if it's concealed, if it's support. We know there was Klunsoi Shel Erez in the Ulam Shel Yevet HaBayis, and Shlomo Melech's Beis HaMikdash and Malachim is described as wood that was mechupos, covered over with stones. That's allowed just if it's sticking out. Thank you so very much for joining our Kol HaTorah Kol HaChabura. Looking forward to next year tonight, Be'ezus Hashem. Shkoyach Kinelach.